Unknown waitress, a billionaire dinner in Manhattan. Just 5 words from her brought a $40 billion deal to its knees and pulled the most powerful man on Wall Street off his throne. Manhattan, a cold evening with city lights reflecting off the wet pavement. Inside the luxurious Hudson and Pine restaurant, the clinking of silverware blended with the booming laughter of the ultra-rich. In the corner of the room, a young waitress named Maya Carter tilted slightly, balancing a heavy tray as if she had done it thousands of times. No one noticed her. They didn't need to. To them, Maya was just the one who brings the plates. At table 9, the table where names that could shake the U.S. financial market with a single decision were gathered, John Rockwell, a Wall Street billionaire, was raising his glass and talking about the $40 billion deal he was about to sign. His nephew, cheeks flushed from alcohol, suddenly leaned on the table and pointed straight at Maya. "Uncle John, why don't you ask the waitress? Maybe she has an opinion about your $40 billion deal." Laughter erupted, elegant but dripping with mockery. John Rockwell squinted, looking at Maya as if she were nothing more than a decorative detail in the room. "Well, Maya, what do you think about a $40 billion deal?" The entire restaurant seemed to turn toward her at once. A tiny moment, yet enough to make anyone bow their head and withdraw. Maya was about to do precisely that, until she heard them casually mention a name. Preston Hale. Maya froze. Her fingers tightened, forming a faint, trembling line. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of living like a ghost, and now the man who destroyed her life had returned, casually dropped into dinner conversation among the most powerful people in America. Maya lifted her head. Gently, calmly, yet her eyes carried something no one expected. She took half a step toward the table, looking straight at John Rockwell, the man who, just seconds earlier, had treated her like a joke. And in a voice soft but sharp enough to cut through silk, she said, "You're being set up." 5 words. Just 5 words, but enough to silence every laugh. Enough to make a businessman's fork drop onto his plate with a thunderclap. In that costly room, only one person understood the truth. Maya Carter. No one at the dinner table could maintain their earlier composure. John Rockwell leaned forward, his voice lowered but sharp as steel. "You just said I'm being set up? By whom?" Maya stood there, her breathing steady, but her eyes reflecting a determination she had tried to bury for years. She knew this moment would come. If not today, then someday, when the name Preston Hale returned like a ghost into her life. She answered, each word heavy like fragments of memories falling into place. "The man you're about to work with is the one who destroyed my life." No one understood what that meant, but Maya understood it all too well. She had once sat at the most elite conference tables, writing algorithms that the press praised as the future weapons of the market. She had once been a sought-after name in fintech, the youngest in the room, yet the one who made the entire room fall silent whenever she spoke. Back then, Preston Hale referred to Maya as the future of Hale Investments. She believed him. She believed in the warm smile, the gentle eyes of a mentor she thought would guide her for years to come. Trust makes people blind. During one routine internal data audit, Maya discovered anomalies so small only the person who built the system would notice. Repeated transactions leaving no trace. Strange disappearing fees hidden inside offshore accounts. Money flows scattered through multiple layers of encryption. All of it pointed to one single truth. Preston was laundering money using the very algorithm Maya had created. She thought she must have been mistaken. She checked again, dozens of times, hoping it was just a minor system glitch, but every check only made the truth clearer. In the end, Maya chose to do the right thing, the thing any ethical professional should do. She brought everything to Preston. She didn't know that moment would mark the end of her former life. A few days later, the FBI showed up. All the evidence of money laundering was under Maya's name. Emails, accounts, trace logs, everything pointed to her, as if she had been the mastermind behind the entire scheme. But Maya knew the only truth. Preston had wiped his tracks clean and shifted every ounce of blame onto her, backed by a fabricated dossier so meticulously crafted that not a single investigator doubted it. No one believed Maya. No one stood by her. She only had time to pack a few belongings before leaving her apartment in San Jose in the dark of night, taking her mother's last name, Carter, and vanishing from the financial world. From a prodigy who once shook Silicon Valley, Maya became a quiet shadow in New York, working as a waitress, earning tips just to survive. And tonight, when Preston's name echoed through this opulent ballroom, everything she tried to bury surged back, vivid, painful, but razor sharp. Maya looked straight at John Rockwell, revealing for the first time the actual sharpness in her gaze. "Sir? What you're seeing in the Next Aware dossier is the same model Preston once used to destroy me. If you sign, you'll lose everything." Her words fell onto the table like a prophecy, and no one in that lavish room saw Maya Carter as just a waitress anymore. The air remained thick after Maya's words. The suited men around the table looked at one another, trying to guess whether they had just witnessed a joke or a real warning capable of capsizing a multi-billion-dollar deal. John Rockwell leaned back in his chair. The warm overhead light cast a sharp tension across his face. He was a man who had been through hundreds of negotiations, accustomed to lies, schemes, and backstabbing in the financial world. And he quickly realized Maya wasn't lying. There was something in her voice, not fear, not hatred, but truth. The kind of truth heavy enough to silence an entire room. John tilted his head, lowering his voice. "Keep talking." Maya glanced at the slightly opened briefcase beside his chair, where a few pages had been blown out of place by the cold draft from the door. Symbols, numbers, financial structures, all painfully familiar. She had seen this model before, analyzed it, and been crushed by it. "Preston is reusing the same structure he used back then," she said, each word soft as breath, yet cutting a deep line through the silence around the table. "Shell companies, circular money flow, inflated reports. It's all identical." John's nephew, the one who mocked her minutes earlier, froze, his mouth open but unable to form a word. One of John's partners was about to protest, but John raised a hand. "Quiet. Let her speak." Maya continued, eyes fixed on the papers. "You think you're buying NextAware's technology, but in reality, you're buying hidden liabilities. And 6 weeks after the deal closes, a shell company will declare bankruptcy. The entire burden will fall on Rockwell Capital." No one spoke. Even the clinking spoon against a glass at the following table seemed to stop, as if holding its breath. Maya looked straight at John, letting the pain in her memories flash through her eyes for the first time. "That's the exact trap Preston put me in. And now, he's repeating it with you." John slowly set his wine glass down. He stared at her for a long time, as though weighing whether this was something worth risking his entire career over. Then he spoke, his voice no longer sharp, but a low tone edged with caution. "Why would a waitress know this much?" The question sliced through the air between them. It had to be asked, and Maya knew from the beginning she would have to answer it. She inhaled, slowly untied the apron at her waist and placed it on the table. A small gesture, but symbolic, as though she were shedding the disguise she had been forced to wear for 3 long years. Because I'm not just a waitress. The room seemed to tilt for a beat. Maya continued, her voice calm but unwavering. My real name is not Maya Carter. John frowned. Who are you? She met his eyes, no longer avoiding his gaze. I am the person Preston Hale once called the genius of his company, and the same person he turned into a fugitive. No one spoke. Only the pounding of Maya's heartbeat filled her chest. John looked at her as if trying to peel back every layer of truth, and then the once dominant gaze shifted from suspicion to calculation. He stood up, pulling his chair back so abruptly that the wooden floor groaned under the force. Come with me. A beat of silence. John's voice came again, clear, sharp, commanding. Right now. No one understood what was happening. The elegant eyes around the table watched John Rockwell rise with an expression unlike anything they had ever seen on him. A mixture of caution, anger, and something Maya recognized instantly. The panic of a man who had just realized he had nearly lost everything. He didn't ask another question, didn't discuss, didn't argue. He said only one sentence, low, firm. Come with me. Maya stood frozen for a moment. She had waited for this for 3 years, a person powerful enough to listen to her, to give her a chance to prove the truth. She just never expected that moment would come, in the middle of a luxury restaurant, under a cascade of golden lights with dozens of eyes watching. John glanced at his nephew and the 2 partners still sitting in shock. Pay for the entire table, and as of this minute, you 2 no longer work for me. No one dared object. Even the arrogant nephew lowered his head in silence. John turned back to Maya, his voice quiet yet carrying an authority strong enough for the entire room to hear. If what you say is true, I need to know everything. Right now. He walked away, without looking back. Maya understood. This was her only chance, and she could not lose it. She followed him out of Hudson and Pine, leaving behind the rising whispers that swept through the room like wind through a forest. Who is she? What just happened? Does Rockwell actually believe her? Outside, the cold New York air slapped against her face as if testing her resolve. A sleek black SUV waited at the curb, its door opening automatically as John approached. He motioned. Get in. Maya hesitated for a single second, only one, before stepping inside. The door shut, sealing them away from the chaotic world outside, leaving only the steady hum of the engine and a faint chill that fogged the windows. All the way from Manhattan to Midtown, no one spoke. John sat beside Maya, eyes fixed forward, though his mind seemed to be racing miles ahead. Occasionally, Maya glanced over. His hand was curled into a subtle fist, an obvious sign. He believed, or at the very least, he believed enough to be afraid. When the SUV stopped in front of Rockwell Tower, Maya looked up involuntarily. The skyscraper loomed overhead, its blue glass panels reflecting the city lights like a vertical ocean of shimmering stars. The glowing sign, Rockwell Capital, Global Headquarters. A place she had only dared to look at from afar through financial broadcasts. A place she never imagined she would one day enter, especially as the person who might save the entire empire. John ascended the steps, Maya behind him. The security guards straightened instantly, but the moment they recognized John, they bowed slightly and opened the doors without a word. Inside, the grand lobby shone with pristine white light, luxurious and cold as polished steel. Stepping in felt like walking into the command center of a vast financial power. John didn't pause. He led Maya straight to the private elevator. Only the vice presidents and the CEO were allowed to use it. When the doors closed, John spoke for the first time since leaving the restaurant. "You said they're repeating the model they used to destroy you. I need you to show it to me. By any means." Maya stood tall, the elevator lights reflecting a sharp glint in her eyes, a brilliance she had hidden for years. "If you want the truth, I'll show you everything." The elevator doors opened to the top floor, where the city lights spread out like a sea of glittering stars beyond the massive glass panes. John walked into his office. Maya followed. And there, in the middle of New York's night, atop the most powerful tower on Wall Street, two people who shouldn't have crossed paths were about to begin a battle no one else dared to face. John Rockwell's office was as large as an exhibition hall. An entire wall was made of glass overlooking Manhattan, glowing below like a massive electrical circuit running at full power. But Maya had no time to be overwhelmed. She only glanced once, then focused immediately on the most important thing, the walnut desk, where a stack of Nexaware documents lay open, still in the exact position John had hastily closed when leaving the restaurant. She stepped forward, and after only a few seconds scanning the pages, Maya's voice dropped. "This is the exact structure Preston used last time, only more refined. I recognize every trace." John stood behind her, arms crossed, a flicker of fear mixed with determination in his eyes. "I want the full picture, every detail, every mechanism he built into this deal." Maya looked up, meeting John's gaze. "I need access to the system, and I need it now." John didn't hesitate. He pressed an internal number. "Prepare the data center. Full access. I'm bringing someone down, right now." A few minutes later, they entered a completely different world, the Rockwell Data Center, several floors below, where dozens of analysts worked among forests of screens and glowing server racks. The air was thick with tension and caffeine, a place where a single wrong click could shake the entire U.S. financial market. When John stepped inside, the whole room rose to their feet. Every eye shifted toward Maya, in her restaurant server uniform, her hair still carrying a faint trace of kitchen heat. No one understood why the CEO had brought someone like her into one of the company's most sensitive financial command centers. For a few seconds, Maya felt the weight of those judging stares. But she was no longer someone who had to bow her head. 3 years of running had taught her one truth. When the truth is on your side, other people's eyes lose their power. John commanded, "Everyone, back to work. This is the person I trust most right now. She needs full access to all Nexaware files." Silence spread through the room like a cold ripple. Some people exchanged looks, unable to believe what they'd heard. Among them, a woman around 40 stood sharply upright, a steel-cold expression fixed on her face. This was Dana Whitmore, head of risk control, the person whose job was to eliminate vulnerabilities. Dana's voice was stern as metal. "Sir, with all due respect, this is a top-level security zone. We cannot grant full access to an outsider." John replied instantly, without a second of hesitation. "She is not an outsider." Dana narrowed her eyes at Maya, scanning her from head to toe, a stare as sharp as a blade. "Then who is she?" Maya didn't answer with words. She walked straight to an empty workstation. Her fingers touched the keyboard. And within seconds, something happened that silenced the entire room. Even with nothing more than guest access, Maya bypassed 2 firewall layers, unlocked encrypted data folders, pulled up the Nexaware stock chain that analysts had spent weeks arranging, traced irregular money routes hidden behind the very algorithms she once created. all of it in 30 seconds. A nearby engineer whispered, "Holy, even I can't do that." Dana rushed forward, her voice sharpening. "What are you doing? Guest access can't open those files." Maya didn't turn around. She simply spoke softly. "If someone builds a door, they always know how to open it." A single sentence that froze the entire room. Then she added, "And Preston is behind this door. I intend to drag him into the light." She opened a new tab to check the SEI flow structure. The screen lit up with dense streams of characters, meaningless to most, but to Maya, it was the voice of truth. John stood behind her, his back stiffening as he stared at the monitor. "What do you see?" Maya answered without blinking. "Preston's fingerprints. No doubt about it." In that moment, the screen's light reflected in Maya's eyes, making them shine like a blade catching moonlight. And everyone in the room knew. They had just witnessed the moment the true genius awaken. The screen in front of Maya kept flashing as she delved deeper into the layers of data. Symbols, complex lines of code, things that would overwhelm almost everyone else in the room, unfolded before her like pages of memory. She enlarged a sequence of suspicious transactions, her eyes narrowing as if recognizing something familiar. "This is the exact cash flow pattern Preston used," Maya said softly, but just loud enough for John behind her to hear and shiver. John bent down to get a closer look. He didn't fully understand everything on the screen, but he understood Maya's eyes. They were the eyes of someone who had once been crushed by the very pattern she was now uncovering. The air around them thickened. Analysts began drifting closer, drawn to Maya's screen by something they couldn't explain. Some tried to hide their shock as they watched her cut through layers of encryption they themselves had struggled with for weeks. Dana Whitmore, who had been watching Maya with a cold stare, stepped forward, her voice sharp with suspicion. "Guest access cannot open those files. What are you doing?" Maya didn't turn. Her fingers continued moving as if playing a familiar melody on the keyboard. "If someone writes a system, that person always knows the paths inside it." The sentence made the entire room vibrate, as if Maya had touched a truth everyone sensed but no one dared to articulate. And then, a beep. A bright red notification flashed across the screen. "Access granted. Restricted file, HX117. The room fell into immediate silence. Even the hum of the servers seemed louder than usual. John looked at Dana, his gaze growing cold. "You said no one was allowed into this section, but she just got in." Dana opened her mouth, but no sound came out. For the first time, a flash of confusion slid across her usually unshakable face, a face trained to maintain total control. Maya scrolled to a cluster of bank accounts, zooming in on a series of monthly repeating transfers. The transactions were hidden with impressive finesse, but they couldn't fool the person who had written the foundational code. She stopped, her expression briefly softening. "This account," Maya said, her voice slowing with each word, "receives money from one of Preston's shell companies." The room buzzed to life. Some glanced at one another, others looked at John in disbelief. Maya continued, this time turning fully toward Dana. Her eyes held no anger, only cold, immovable truth. "And the receiving account matches the bank where you, Dana, receive your paycheck." Dana's face drained of color. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to speak, but the words snagged in her throat. A few people stepped back as if witnessing the impossible. John moved toward Dana, his expression darkening. "You are the head of risk control. You're the only one capable of suppressing internal alerts. What do you have to say for yourself?" Dana inhaled sharply, but she couldn't refute anything. She knew the moment had come. Everything that had been hidden could no longer stand. Maya turned back to the screen. She opened a deeper encryption window. A new interface appeared, dense, dark, almost permanently sealed. "This final layer of code," Maya said, "only opens with the biometrics of a designated person." All eyes instantly shifted to Dana. Dana stepped back. I don't," John cut her off. "Open it." His voice wasn't loud, but no one in the room would dare disobey it. Dana swallowed hard, walking toward the server terminal with trembling hands. She placed her finger on the scanner, then looked into the facial recognition camera. Finally, she entered a long password, so complex it proved Preston had chosen her carefully. The screen flickered once, twice, then unlocked. A red line of text appeared, glowing like a sealed, classified stamp. Operation Trident. Classified. No one breathed. No one spoke. No one moved. Maya stared at the words, and in that moment she knew. She had just uncovered the darkest core of Preston's entire scheme. The very thing capable of collapsing Rockwell Capital just as he had dragged her to the bottom 3 years ago. The words, Operation Trident, classified, glowed on the screen, and the air in the room thickened as if solidifying. No one said a word. Even the typing from other workstations faded into complete silence. Maya gripped the edge of the desk lightly. 3 years of running. 3 years of living quietly like a shadow. And now, Preston's greatest secret sat exposed right in front of her. She opened the first file. A diagram appeared, its lines sharp and cold like metal. Layered shell corporations. Debts disguised as technology development. Strategic investments that were actually financial black holes. And at the center, a plan to drive Rockwell Capital into bankruptcy and repurchase it for almost nothing. John stood beside Maya, his eyes widening. Good God. He built an entire system just to target me? Maya nodded softly. Not just you. He wants a strike that will echo across all of Wall Street. She swiped to the following file. A lengthy report unfolded, filled with edited documents, falsified statements, and distorted financial tables. At the bottom was a digital signature. The name displayed clearly. Preston Hale. John spoke through clenched teeth. He signed it. Inside my system. But Maya wasn't focused on his anger. Her eyes were fixed on a part of the document she never expected to see. There, within the lines of code Preston used to forge the figures, she saw a segment painfully familiar. She zoomed in, closer, closer still, down to every character. Maya's eyes sharpened so intensely that even the people standing behind her felt the change. This is my code. The room fell silent. Maya continued, voice low but razor sharp. He didn't just repeat the old model. He reused the exact code I wrote for the previous system. The one he used to frame me. John turned toward her as though he was finally understanding everything. Maya, he didn't just want to destroy me. He wanted to use your mind to do it. And just as Maya was about to open the deepest file, the final piece of Operation Trident, the elevator at the far end of the room chimed with a sharp ding. The entire room turned. From behind the sliding doors, a man stepped out, his steps slow, confident, as if this place were his living room. A flawless $1,000 suit, silver-streaked hair combed neatly back, and that smile. The smile Maya knew too well. Her heart tightened painfully for a beat. Preston Hale stood there. He looked directly at her, as though the past 3 years were just a little prank he had crafted for his own amusement. Maya Carter. Or should I call you by your old name? His voice cut through the silent room like a blade slicing across still water. Some employees stumbled back in shock. John instinctively shifted to stand slightly in front of Maya, but she didn't take her eyes off Preston. He stepped further into the data center, hands clasped behind his back, his tone light but freezing. I hear you've been reopening old business, right here in my company. Maya's fingers curled into a fist, but her voice remained steady. I'm opening what you hoped no one would ever see. Preston smirked. Oh, Maya. Some doors are created to stay locked forever, and you've forgotten your place. Maya looked at him. With no fear left, only truth sharpened over 3 long years. My place is standing in front of you, exposing everything you've buried. The room stretched tight between them, between the man who had shattered her life and the woman who had been pushed to the bottom but now stood tall with the full force of her own intellect. A cold draft from the ventilation system swept across the floor, carrying with it the unmistakable sense: the real confrontation. It was only just beginning. The atmosphere inside the data center thickened, as if the glass walls around them were closing in. It was hard to believe that Preston Hale, the man Wall Street assumed was on the West Coast or locked in private meetings with tech giants, was standing here, right now, as if he had known everything from the start. John Rockwell looked at him, voice cold as stone. You're not authorized to be here, Preston. Preston let out a soft laugh, the laugh of someone who had long lived above the world. John, I invest in 6 companies in this city. Wherever I go, someone opens a door for me. He turned to Maya, as though the chaos in the room, the panic, the exposed data, the frightened eyes, had nothing to do with him. Maya, I must say, I'm disappointed. I thought after 3 years of hiding you'd learned something, like the fact that not every door should be opened. Maya stood tall. Her eyes no longer held the fear of a hunted woman, but the clarity of someone who had finally understood the actual shape of the darkness pursuing her. You're wrong, Preston. Some doors are opened to expose the ones hiding behind them. A sudden beep echoed from the screen. The final file of Operation Trident was ready to be opened. Every gaze shifted to the blinking icon. John growled. Open it. Maya moved the cursor. Her finger hovered over the red symbol. Preston raised an eyebrow. If you open that, you'll put yourself back in prison. Maya didn't blink. No, not this time. This time? I didn't come empty-handed. She opened the small zipper pocket on her bag. Inside was a small black worn device, yet preserved with deliberate care. A hard drive. The one drive the FBI never found. The room froze. John turned to Maya, stunned. You kept it for 3 years? Maya nodded. I knew I'd need it one day. And today is that day. She plugged the hard drive in. The screen lit up, 2 windows appearing side by side like twin confessions. Left, the money laundering code from years ago. Right, the code inside Operation Trident. The lines matched almost perfectly. Undeniable, irrefutable, impossible to twist a second time. The entire room froze as though encased in ice. John turned to Preston, his voice dropping so low it sounded like stone cracking. You dared reuse the same model you used to frame Maya? Preston stayed silent for 1 beat. A long, heavy beat where everyone could hear the pounding of their own nervous hearts. Then he smiled, a thin, dangerous smile. Why not? If a plan works, all it needs is a few new numbers. Arrogance so monumental it was almost chilling. But Maya smiled too. A small smile, the kind worn by someone who finally knows they've won. That arrogance is exactly what saved me today. She pressed enter. A comparison table appeared instantly. Line 17, identical. Line 23, identical. Line 41, identical. Line 58, identical. The word identical streamed down the screen like an invisible verdict. John glanced at Dana and Thomas, the two who had shrunk into a corner of the room. They looked like dominoes about to topple. "You two," John said in a voice all of Wall Street would obey, "are fired. Effective immediately." Dana tried to speak but only managed a faint, "John, Get out!" John roared. Security rushed in at once, but Preston, he didn't move. He didn't flinch. Then suddenly, he lunged at Maya, fast, violent. So unexpected the entire room screamed, but before he could touch her, a powerful arm shot out, John's bodyguard. Preston was slammed onto the cold tile floor, his cheek pressed to the ground, his breath coming out in furious, broken bursts. You really don't know your place." Maya stood still. She did not step back. She looked down at the man who had crushed her life, and for the first time in 3 years, her voice did not tremble. "My place is exactly where you thought I could never stand again." John gave the order without a shred of hesitation. "Call federal authorities. This is evidence of a national-level financial fraud." Preston thrashed, but it was useless. His final struggles couldn't change the truth. His mask had fallen, right in front of the one person he never believed would rise again. And as security dragged him out of the room, Maya realized something. She hadn't been running for 3 years at all. The truth had simply been waiting for her to return at the exact moment it was meant to. When federal agents escorted Preston Hale out of Rockwell Tower, the data center remained in absolute silence. The employees stared at Maya as if they had just witnessed something that didn't belong in the ordinary world. A woman who had once been erased from the financial industry stand up, face the man who destroyed her, and win using the very intelligence he had underestimated. John Rockwell placed a hand on her shoulder. "From this moment forward, you don't have to run anymore. I'll make sure the truth comes to light." And he kept his word. Within 24 hours, Preston Hale's name appeared on every major news outlet. The CEO of Hale Investments was arrested for allegedly engaging in a nationwide financial fraud scheme. The networks he had spent years building were suddenly exposed to the public eye, and the name Maya Carter, once listed as a money laundering suspect, now appeared as the key witness. Then came the trial. The courtroom was so large that Maya felt like she was entering a place that would decide the fate of all 3 years she had spent in the shadows. Dozens of reporters, TV cameras, the buzz of conversation. But the moment she stepped inside, the entire room seemed to slow in a single breath. Preston, handcuffed, sat at the defense table. His gaze on Maya was the same as before, arrogance, disdain, contempt, but this time, beneath all of that, there was fear. Maya no longer avoided that gaze. When her attorney presented the hard drive as evidence, the courtroom erupted in whispers. 2 columns of code, one old, one new, appeared on the giant courtroom screen, identical down to every character. No one could say anything. It was no longer testimony. It was absolute proof. The prosecutor asked Maya, Are you certain these two code fragments originate from the same source? Maya stood straight, her voice calm. Not just certain. I wrote the first one. I recognize my signature anywhere. A wave of murmurs swept across the courtroom. Then it was Preston's turn. His lawyers tried to twist everything, calling Maya a fugitive, unstable, unreliable. But every time they tried to smear her, Maya answered only with truth. Not raised voice, not outrage, just the truth spoken by someone who had been forced into silence for 3 years. And finally, in front of the entire court, Preston uttered words he never imagined he would say in his lifetime. I plead guilty. The sentence fell like a verdict he pronounced on himself. The court ruled 40 years in federal prison, a sentence that, given his age, was practically life. As officers led him away, Preston turned back to look at Maya one last time. The arrogance was gone, replaced only by the bitterness of a man who realized he had been utterly defeated by someone he once treated as a tool. The steel door closed behind him, and for the first time in 3 years of hiding, Maya drew in a deep breath, as if the invisible cage around her chest had finally dissolved. Outside the courtroom, reporters rushed in, surrounding Maya, microphones, cameras, flashes firing nonstop. But Maya didn't let them twist her into a sensational headline. She said only a straightforward sentence. A sentence so genuine it made several people fall silent. I'm not seeking revenge. I just wanted my name back. Then she turned away, leaving behind the screens trying to turn her into breaking news, leaving behind the image of Preston being taken away, leaving behind the years she spent branded as a fugitive. John Rockwell caught up with her and walked beside her, saying nothing. He understood well. Sometimes silence is the most tremendous respect one can offer someone who has just stepped out of the darkness. As they entered the black car parked outside the courthouse, Maya looked at New York City through the tinted glass, the city where she had lived in its lowest layers for 3 long years, hiding from the world. And now, its highest floors were opening their doors to her, not out of pity, but out of recognition. The trial ended. Her name, Maya Carter, was cleared from every wanted list. She no longer had to hide behind late-night restaurant shifts, no longer had to flinch every time she heard police sirens outside. But Maya didn't celebrate. Over the past 3 years, she had learned that true victory isn't loud. It's simply the feeling of standing upright without fear of being seen. John Rockwell kept his promise. 1 week after the trial, he invited Maya to the top floor of Rockwell Tower, not to thank her, not to reward her, but to hand her a folder. This is an official offer, John said, his voice steady. I want you to lead the company's new strategic division. Rebuild the system. Seal every gap, and most importantly, I want you to create a shield Preston could never break. Maya opened the folder. Her name was printed there, clear, sharp, intact, not smeared, not altered, not twisted. Director of Strategic Intelligence, Rockwell Capital. A position so high that many people spend their entire lives chasing it without ever reaching it. But Maya didn't look at the title. She looked at the way John delivered the final sentence. You saved all of us. I want to build something with you. Something that will outlast all of us. Maya smiled softly. A genuine smile, not hidden, not guarded. I don't want to take revenge on him anymore, she said. I want to build something he can never touch. John nodded, almost smiling in return. That's why I chose you. 1 month later, the 82nd floor of Rockwell Tower, once the place Preston intended to hide, Operation Trident, had now become the company's new strategic brain. Under Maya's leadership, The alert systems were rewritten from scratch. The anti-fraud algorithms were dramatically upgraded. The entire financial control process was restructured. No one in the tower dared underestimate the small woman who once carried trays in an upscale restaurant. Maya walked through rows of financial experts reporting to her. Her posture was graceful, confident, yet her eyes remained sharp as a blade, because she knew the financial world was never a place for complacency. At the end of the day, when everyone had left the data center, Maya stood alone before the massive glass window. The New York night stretched beneath her like an endless carpet of light. John walked in, placing 2 hot cups of coffee on the glass railing. Not wine, not champagne, just coffee. The drink Maya used to have every night during her restaurant shifts, a reminder she had never lost herself. He handed her 1 cup. "You've done what no one dared imagine." "Maya, how does it feel?" She looked down at the city, her eyes reflecting brilliant shards of light. "Like I've taken a full breath for the first time in years. And like everything I lost finally mattered." A quiet, beautiful silence settled between them. Then Maya turned to John, giving him a small, gentle smile. "But remember this, John. Next time you want my financial advice, you're not getting it for just a dinner." John laughed, a real, rare laugh. "I believe that, Maya. I believe that." She turned back to the city one last time. New York was no longer a place she ran from. It had become the place she rose from, the place she was reborn. And in that moment, Maya Carter knew. She had not only taken her name back, she had also taken her life. She had built a stronger one from the very pieces that once broke her. Sometimes the cruelest thing life does, it forces you to start from zero. But it's precisely from that zero that you learn how far you can go. And never forget this. Truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to stand firm. Thank you for following Maya's journey until the end. If this story touched you, leave a small comment about your feelings or what you took away from this painful yet powerful path. And if you want to continue exploring deep human stories filled with resilience and meaning, don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to Deep Life Tales. See you in the following story, where we go even deeper into the many layers of life.